Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished members of the press. Let me welcome you to the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting brief for 2019. The Monetary Policy Committee held its first meeting for the fiscal year of 2019 on 21st and the 22nd of January 2019. Amidst concerns over the slowdown in global economic activity arising from ongoing trade tensions, tightening global financing conditions, and mounting external debt in emerging markets and developing economies (EMDEs). On the domestic front, the resurgence of moderate inflationary pressures and possible threat to accretion to external reserves due to softening crude oil prices were noted by the committee. The committee also reviewed the developments in the global and domestic economic and financial environment in 2018, as well as the risks and outlook in the short to medium term. 11 members of the committee were in attendance today. The global economic developments. The committee noted the divergence in performance of most economies in 2018, leading to moderating the global output. In addition, a combination of factors including financial market volatilities, trade wars between the US and key allies, continuing monetary policy normalization by the US, Brexit, the determination of the European Central Bank's asset purchase program in December 2018, and the slowdown in the Chinese economy further heightened uncertainties for the global economy in 2019. Consequently, global growth has been downgraded by the International Monetary Fund to 3.5% in 2019 from 3.7% in 2018. The committee noted the gradual increase in global inflation, with inflationary pressures intensifying in some emerging markets and developing economies who have in the recent past faced currency depreciation arising from capital flow reversals and also arising from progressive monetary tightening by the Federal Reserve. It is, however, expected that the recent decline in oil prices may reverse the trend, especially for oil importing economies, and thus moderate currency depreciation in these economies. Domestic output development. The committee noted the continued recovery in output growth in the domestic economy after the 2016 recession, as real GDP grew by 1.81% during the third quarter of 2018 from 1.5% during the second quarter of 2018. The services and agricultural sectors continue to drive output growth, contributing 1.19 and 0.56% respectively. However, the persistence of herdsmen attack on farmers, cattle rustling, and flooding in some parts of the country affected agricultural and livestock output. Based on the Manufacturing and Non-Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI, output grew for quarter 4 of 2018 is expected to expand further. The observed performance in the PMI was attributed to the stability in the foreign exchange market, improvement in the flow of financing resources to the real sector through the various interventions by the bank, effective implementation of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, and the increase in non-oil sector GDP. The output for growth, however, remains fragile as the late implementation of the 2020 budget and the residual impact of flooding and security challenges constitute headwinds to growth. The committee therefore believes that the effective implementation of the 2018 capital budget and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, improvement in the security situation, and continued stability of the foreign exchange market will enhance aggregate demand and output growth. Developments in the money and prices. Committee noted the broader measure of money supply M3 grew by 16.58% in 2018, above the provisional benchmark of 13%. Broad money M2, however, grew by 12.17% in December 2018 over its level at the end of December 2017, in contrast to the provisional benchmark of 10.48% for 2018. The increase in M2 reflected the growth in net foreign assets of 18.54% in December 2018, above its provisional benchmark of 14.5%. Credit to the private sector rose marginally by 12.97%, below its provisional benchmark of 12.4%, while credit to government grew by 33.7% in December 2018, above its benchmark rate of 7.4%. The committee noted the appreciable growth in credit to the private sector, which had been a constraint to growth in the real sector, and expressed optimism and happiness for further improved lending through the sustained efforts of the bank to enhance credit delivery to small and medium-scale industries in the economy. The Monetary Policy Committee thus commended the management of the bank for its efforts so far in sustaining credit delivery to the real sector of the economy. The resurgence in inflationary pressure in the economy was of concern to the Monetary Policy Committee, as headline inflation year-on-year inched up to 11.44% in December 2018 from 11.28% in November 2018. The increase in headline inflation was driven by food inflation, which rose to 13.36% in December 2018 from 13.3% in November, while core inflation declined marginally to 9.77% in December 2018 from 9.79% in the previous month. The committee, however, observed that the uptick was attributed to seasonal factors which impacted mainly on food. Consequently, all measures of inflation, month on month, showed a decline. Thus, headline food and core inflation declined to 0.74, 0.81, and 0.50% in December 2018 from 0.84, 0.90, and 0.68% respectively in November 2018. The committee observed that the near-term risks to inflation remain the residual impact of flooding on agricultural output, insecurity in parts of the food-producing belts in the country, exchange rate pass-through to inflation due to weakening of oil price, and campaign-related spending towards the 2019 general election. Accordingly, Monetary Policy Committee urged the federal government to sustain its current efforts towards improving security to ease supply chain bottlenecks. Money market interest rates in the review period generally reflected the level of liquidity in the banking system, as the average interbank core rate declined significantly to 7.17% in November 2018 from 14.18% in October 2018. The open buyback OBB rate, which stood at 6.57% in October 2018, increased marginally to 6.76% in November 2018. On December 24th and 31st in 2018, the interbank call and OBB rates, however, closed at 14 and 18.94% respectively. The improvement in the net liquidity position and interest rate reflected the combined effects of the CBN quasi-fiscal operations, OMO auctions, maturing CBN bills, and foreign exchange interventions, as well as statutory allocations to state and local governments. The committee observed the decline in the equities market for the most part of 2018. On a year-on-year basis, the all-share index decreased by 17.81% from 38,243.19 at the end of December 2017 to 31,430.4 430.5 at the end of December 2018. The oil share index further decreased by 1.35% to 31,005.17 as of January 2018. Similarly, market capitalization decreased by 13.87% from 13.61 trillion at the end of December 2017 to 11.72 trillion at the end of December 2018. It further declined by 1.37% to 11.56 trillion naira as of January 18, 2019. Committee observed that these developments largely reflected the impact of the progressive monetary policy normalization in some advanced economies and the sustained profit-taking activities of foreign investors arising from perceived political risk in the build-up to the 2019 general elections. The Monetary Policy Committee, however, remained optimistic of the gradual reversal of the current trend in the medium term, given the current stability in the foreign exchange market and the external reserves position, as well as continued improvements in key macroeconomic indicators. The committee noted the relative stability at both the bureau de change and the investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange market, supported by the bank's proactive exchange rate management policies. It also observed with satisfaction the contribution to stability in the market of the implementation of the bilateral currency swap agreement with China and the inflow of the $2.8 billion Eurobond. Committee also noted the marginal increase in the external reserves from 42.54 billion as at the end of December 2018 to $43.28 billion as at January 21, 2019, noting that these improvements would further strengthen investor confidence in the Nigerian economy. The overall outlook and risks. Forecasts for key macroeconomic variables in 2019 portend a positive outlook for the domestic economy. Output growth is expected to be driven by fiscal stimulus from increase in oil and non-oil receipts to support the federal government's economic recovery and growth plan. The economy is projected to grow by 2% according to IMF, 2.2% by the World Bank, and 2.28% by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Key headwinds to these forecasts, however, are softening oil prices, persistent security challenges arising from insurgency in northeast and herdsmen attack in some parts of the country, and perceived political risks associated with 2019 general elections. The outlook for inflation in the first half of 2019 is mixed, with the expectation of an increase in near term before a gradual decline towards the mid-year. Inflation is expected to rise marginally amidst powerful tailwinds, which include increased spending in preparation for the 2019 general elections and continued disruptions to the food supply chain in the insurgency-prone areas and herdsmen attack on regions of the country. The MPC appraised the possibility of external shocks in 2019 as the outlook for the global economy remains uncertain due to the effects of ongoing trade tensions between the US and its key allies, slower growth in China, unclear direction of a Brexit, negotiations and continuing monetary policy normalization in some advanced economies. The committee was of the view that oil prices may, however, remain relatively stable with the $50 per barrel bracket in view of recent OPEC's production cutting actions. Committee's considerations. The committee noted with satisfaction the performance of the economy in 2018, highlighting the achievements in key macroeconomic indicators in the face of global uncertainties and domestic challenges. In particular, it noted the stability in the exchange rate, stable accretion to external reserves, moderation in inflation, and gradual improvement in output growth. The MPC further noted the low but gradual improvement in the real GDP in the last 6 consecutive quarters, commencing from the second quarter of 2017. MPC noted that given global economic conditions and the risks confronting emerging markets and developing economies in recent times, as well as the productive capacity of the economy, the managed float regime management of the central bank has delivered the most optimal results when compared with other emerging markets in recent times. Consequently, capital flows into the domestic economy has continued unabated after an initial lull. The committee considered the risks to the global economy, noting the downward revision in the projected global output in 2019, the adverse impact of the trade wars between the US and its major trading partners, the likelihood of lower crude oil prices, impact on capital flows, of continued monetary policy normalization by major advanced economies, distorted signals of Brexit negotiations, as well as pockets of other socio-political tensions and perceived election risks on the domestic front. Committee recommended the government's focused expenditure on investment in infrastructure and urged the federal government to sustain the pace towards addressing the infrastructural deficit in Nigeria. It noted that the immediate impact of this approach on GDP may be slow in coming, but eventually expand the economy's productive base, reduce unemployment, and increase aggregate demand in a more sustainable manner and over a long period of time. The committee acknowledged the strategic role of the private sector in economic growth and remained concerned over the slow growth in credit to the private sector through 2018. Noting the sudden increase at the end of December 2018, the MPC commended the initiative of the Bankers Committee in addressing the phenomenon of low credit to the small and medium-scale enterprises through partnering with the Nigerian Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agric Lending, the NIRSAL, to establish a national microfinance bank with branches in all states and local governments of the Federation to provide low-interest rate lending to small-scale businesses in Nigeria. A further initiative by the NIRSAL with the CBN to de-risk lending to small-scale enterprises is also being fine-tuned. On external borrowing, committee noted the increase in the debt level, advising for caution, noting that it could fast be approaching the pre-2005 Paris Club exit level. The MPC also noted that although there was an increase in inflation rate at the second consecutive month, based on month-on-month inflation, continued to moderate, indicating that the year-on-year measures will also moderate in the near term. This is supported by the stability in the Naira exchange rate and thus urged the bank to sustain this stability. To this end, it welcomed the narrowing of the exchange rate premium between the BDC segment and the investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange market. Committee also noted with satisfaction the gradual reduction in non-performing loans of our deposit money banks, which has further strengthened their balance sheets. The committee believes that as government pays off contractor debts and other obligations, there will be a sizable reduction in the non-performing loans in the Nigerian banking industry. Committee also noted the attempt by the government to broaden the base of the value-added tax, the VAT, and urged the authorities to expedite action in that respect, arguing that increased tax collection will reduce the pressure on government expenditure and create fiscal buffers to improve macroeconomic management. The observed and recent high foreign capital inflow into the Nigerian economy, despite the perception of election risks, is evidence of the confidence of the international community in the country's macroeconomic management and provides a compelling reason for the committee to await clarity on macroeconomic performance after the general elections in February and March 2019. In the light of the observed risks confronting the economy, including the global and domestic inflationary pressures, which have intensified the risks of currency depreciation, the MPC was of the view that a losing option was very, very remote, weighing the balance of its judgment on price stability conducive to growth. The MPC felt that tightening will result in loss of the gains so far achieved, noting that this may drive the banks to reprice assets, thus creating the cost of credit, thus increasing the cost of credit, as well as elevating credit risks in the economy. It will also worsen the position of non-performing loans of the banks. Committee also felt that tightening will dampen investments and hamper improvements in output growth, given the already fragile growth performance so far achieved. Committee's decision. In the light of the above factors, the MPC decided by a vote of all 11 members to keep the policy parameters unchanged from their current levels. In summary, the MPC voted to 1. Retain the MPR at 14%, retain the asymmetric corridor of plus 200 basis points and minus 500 basis points around the MPR. 3. Retain the CRR at 22.5%, liquidity ratio at 30%. I thank you all.
My question is, I just need clarification on the MTN infraction of 1.8 billion. I know as at the last time it was settled out of court, the MTN said it was meant to be 56 billion naira, dollars, and I know CBN did not say anything on that, so I'd like to know why they didn't put a figure to it. Then last week, I know CBN released on these items that will be banned. I'd like to know the rest of the, that will make the 42 that will be banned. Thank you.
No, say that again, please. Say that again.
In terms of items that will be banned, initially it was 41, and in December you added fertilizer. But as of last week, you said there are others that will be banned that will make it 50. I saw the release. So I'd like to know the others that will be, if at all it will be.
There was no release on that. Please, let us respect the rules.
It's okay, please.
Good afternoon, Governor. My name is Issa Abdullah from Regional Affairs. It's a good sign that personal reserve is getting accurate. But considering the performance of the Nigerian economy amidst other emerging economies, what is your assessment of the performance of the economy in terms of global context?
Hey, madam. Welcome. How is the boy?
He's very fine, sir. Thank you very much. All right, let me ask this question. Recently, at the presidential debates, there was a certain presidential candidate that made references and criticized the policies of the central bank as well as the FX market. And he said that if he will be elected, he would liberalize the foreign exchange market, allow unintended imports, and remove capital control. What are your comments to this?
Thank you.
Hey, Governor, my name is Udo from Premium Times. Happy New Year, sir.
Thank you.
Now, you've talked about the impact of the rising debt profile of the country, which you are saying that if government does not do something, it might go back to pre-2015 levels. So how bad is the bad debt situation now, sir? What do you think, Governor?
Ramat.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor. My name is Rahama Saidu. I live in Radio Nigeria. I watched President Muhammad Buhari's interview on Arise TV last week. And in answering one of the questions, he specifically directed journalists to ask Central Bank of Nigeria for further details on the performance of the economy as regards the agricultural sector and the foreign exchange market. Since he directed us to ask, we are led to you further give us more details on the facts and figures on what has been achieved in these sectors. Thank you.
To provide facts and figures.
Yes.
We deal on facts, and you deal on numbers.
Good afternoon, Governor. My name is Elisha Balabuga from Bloomberg. Are you able to confirm reports that the CBN has asked banks to reverse interest charges on all subsidy-related loans? And if so, I mean, what's the rationale behind this move in light of the obvious earning implications for some of the banks?
Good afternoon, Governor. I'm Yamachulia from Business Day. My name is on the differentiated CRA regime you announced last year. Can we get a sense of how much that has worked? Because it seems that banks are kind of not leveraging that window. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Governor, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, I have a concern. I'm proposing closing my accounts because it appears that my accounts in the banks, because it appears that banks no longer obey the confidentiality of customers' procedure. I mean, relationship in terms of revealing account details, deposit and withdrawal. I want to know if you are concerned about this. Should I go ahead and close my accounts, or are you doing anything to these banks that are not maintaining this confidentiality clause that they hold their customers? Thank you.
Well, I think that's all. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Elizabeth Christopher from Voice of Nigeria. You said the NISA is planning to work with other stakeholders to set up microfinance banks for the grassroots. I don't know what the NISA will be doing differently, because we've seen other initiatives that, is it that it's not friendly for the SME to approach the banks and access those loans, or what is different this time that we should be expecting?
So many questions.
My name is Chinemara Joseph from Silver Betty. The withdrawals by banks, the charges by banks, especially the 65 naira they take after you withdraw with your ATM card 3 times. We find out that some banks are still, collecting these charges. I want to find out how the Apex Bank is relating with these commercial banks to ensure that these charges are reduced or regulated.
Thank you very much. My name is MPC. Good afternoon, sir. From White Streets Media. December, sir, during the bankers' dinner and during the bankers' retreat as well, you made mention of the National Microfinance Bank coming on stream in January. So we're in January now, and a lot of people are looking forward to it. Can we have the update on that? Thank you.
Last question.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Omoko, Nigerian pilot. So it's interesting you said that the NPL is going down. So deposit money banks NPL. Now, sir, I would like to know what is the state of the NPL now, so that it will be a good news.
Between the MTN and the CBN and the bank to be resolved amicably and equitably, and that everybody will be happy. I'm glad to tell you, yes, in November, we held a round of meetings with the MTN officials, even from South Africa, and by December, we concluded those engagements and the matters were resolved. It resulted in a notional, I repeat, it's not a fine, not a penalty, a notional reversal of the sum of $53 million, amounting to about 19.5 billion naira or something like that, and this amount has since been paid by the MTN, and the terms of settlement of these matters have already been lodged at the Nigerian courts. On the issue of the 41 plus 1, which is 42 items, items that are received from foreign exchange, and the fact that we're contemplating increasing to 50. Let me say that what I had said was this, that the Central Bank of Nigeria will get even more aggressive to see to it that food and any or all food items that can be produced in Nigeria and consumed in Nigeria that are currently being imported into Nigeria, that we would go through our records, and once we convince ourselves that these products can be produced in Nigeria, we'll place them on the FX restriction list. What does that mean? That you cannot source foreign exchange from the Nigerian foreign exchange market to import those items into Nigeria. But if you have free dollars, you can bring it in, but that you will not be able to even make payments for those from dollars from the Nigerian foreign exchange market. This is because we think that the initiatives that central bank had put in place in the past to cut imports and diversify the structure of the Nigerian economy is yielding results, and we would continue to be that aggressive. And indeed, we also went further to say that we would investigate the Economic Intelligence Department of the CBN together with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. We will investigate any company, any individual suspected of bringing these items either through any border, through smuggling or any means, for money laundering and economic sabotage. And that if we discover and conclusively that these companies or individuals are involved in bringing this thing in through money laundering and economic sabotage, that we would write to all the banks, we'll blacklist those companies, and those individuals running those companies or who owns those companies, that they can no longer operate any bank account in any Nigerian bank. There is no need to talk about prosecuting you, but it is just to say we will not allow you to do business again in Nigeria, and of course you know what implication that means. There's a question here that talked about that it is good that the external reserves are up. What is the assessment of the economy of Nigeria? Yeah, but it's important for me to say that if we think about where we are coming from, I would say, and I like to use some numbers. For instance, in 2008, precisely in September, Nigeria's reserve was about $62 billion. GDP was 7.2%. Inflation was 15% in 2008. By 2014, January precisely of 2014, GDP was 6.2. Inflation had trended downwards to 8%, and January of 2014, reserve was 40. Let's not forget, we were in a period of prosperity in terms of crude prices between 2009 to 2014, 5 straight years with no shortings in pipelines, with a high crude oil price, and yet reserve dropped. Now, from 2014, from about the end of 2014, we started another round of global crisis. The global crisis resulted in stagflation in Nigeria. GDP dropped to 2.79% in 2015, went further and contracted to negative of 1.58% in 2016, improved in 2017 to 8.2%, and then up, we're expecting hopefully 2018 would end at about 1.8%. Inflation, like I said earlier, was 15% in 2008, dropped to 8% in 2014, and 2015 it moved up to about 9%, 9.5%, and by January 2016 it had moved up to 18.7%. And in January 2017 I moved up to 18.7%, but today, through the activities in the monetary and fiscal policies, inflation had gone down to 11.4%. Like I said earlier, reserves was 62 billion sometime in 2008, with even higher reserves, with higher productivity. Reserve dropped to 40 billion in January 2014 and ended 2014 at 35 billion, went further down in 2015 to 28 billion, and indeed by October, as a result of the crisis, October 2016, reserve had plummeted further to 23 billion. Today, as a result of all the actions and activities of both the monetary and fiscal policies supported by the government, reserve is up, went up to 39 in 2017, and 2018 we closed at 42.5. And I had said so in my communique that even as at now, as a result of the confidence in the management of the Nigerian foreign exchange market, the confidence in the management of the country, we've seen confidence even in foreign investors even returning to the point where today, as I say, as I close of work yesterday, reserve was 43.28 billion. We had seen FX stability in the market, and some of you will recall that sometime in 2016, up to early 2017, of course we had currency crisis, we had capital flight, and we saw a situation where exchange rate, even in the black market, had moved up in February to 525. And I was being told that by March it will hit 1,000. And Lord knows what it would have hit by even April or May of 2017. But as a result of the actions of the Central Bank of Nigeria, today, the market, all markets, in fact, the borrowed exchange market had come down to about 360. Today, even selling at slightly below 360, right? The INA window, which is a market that we set up for free flow, free in, free out, today is about 362. So we have seen a substantially a convergence of the foreign exchange market in Nigeria today. On the balance of trade, because it's important for us to provide an assessment so that when people sit and say that the economy hasn't done well, I think it is not a fair comment to be made both on government and also on the monetary and the fiscal authorities in Nigeria today. On the trade issue, balance of trade, in 2008, imports stood at $86 billion. By 2017, it had dropped to $45.8 billion as a result of the activities of government and the monetary and fiscal authorities. Export also stood at, in summary, I can say that trade balance in 2008 was $46.2 billion, went down during the period of the global crisis to $6.4 billion, and today is up as at 2018. 2017 was $13.15 billion, and we expect in 2018 it closed at 18.7. Now, when you talk about activities that are related to issues on the restriction of foreign exchange for the importation of certain food items, you would also find, for instance, rice, which is a major staple that people talk about today. The data from the Thai Rice Exporters Association says that in 2014, Nigeria imported 1.2 million metric tons of rice into Nigeria. In 2015, it had dropped to 644. In 2016, to 58,000 metric tons. 2017, to 23,000 metric tons, and 2018, to 6,000 metric tons. And I can also read to you, in terms of FX allocated for the importation of some of these items, right? For sugar, for wheat, in 2014, Nigeria we spent $1.2 billion importing wheat. By 2017, it had gone below half to 628, and we are working assiduously to make sure that this goes down further. And that also means that we will be aggressive in supporting smallholder farmers that are going into the area of cultivation of wheat in Nigeria. Sugar had come down from $462 million in 2014 to 255 in 2017. Fish had dropped from over $1 billion in 2014 to just $18.96 in 2017 million, and of course 2018 to $19.29 million. Importation of tomatoes had dropped FX from $7 million to less than $1 million in 2017, and of course 2018 I can assure it was less because we don't have that data here. What are we saying? These results are as a result of the actions and activities of government supporting the monetary and fiscal authorities in Nigeria today. The president came up and said, look, there is a need for us to diversify the base of the Nigerian economy. And please, it's important that I take some of our time to really explain some of the success and achievements that we have seen in the Nigerian economy. Dangote today is establishing one of the biggest plants that have ever lived to see at a time today. It is as a result of government insisting that we must restructure the base of the Nigerian economy. Last Saturday, just 3-4 days ago, I was at the project site. The project site of Dangote is at least 10 times the size of Victoria Island in Lagos. We were driving around that project site, driving, not trekking. It took us 4 hours driving around that project site on Saturday. And let me describe the project for you. That project is the largest single-train petroleum refinery in the world today. It is a 650,000 barrel per day refinery. By the time that refinery eventually comes on stream, Nigeria will not just be self-sufficient in the production of refined products. Nigeria will become a net exporter of refined products, earning nothing less than $7.5 billion annually. And I told Dangote eventually central bank will be begging you to sell him foreign exchange. So that is one project. Dangote also went into a fertilizer project. That fertilizer project is twice the size of LMA project. By the time the engine of that fertilizer project is cranked in April, Nigeria will be self-sufficient in the production of fertilizer, so we'll also be exporting fertilizer. Hence, the need to say we were placing a ban on FX availability for the importation of fertilizer into the country. The refinery project will also lead into the petrochemical plant, where polypropylene, polyethylene products will also be produced in Nigeria. What does that also mean? The size of that polypropylene or petrochemical plant is 10 times the current size of LMA petrochemical plant. These are some of the things that have been done, and it's as a result of deliberate policy of government supporting the monetary and fiscal authorities to say we need to deepen and restructure the base of the Nigerian economy. Right? Now, what is the cost of this project? Refinery project is about $9 billion. Dangote has provided nothing less than 50% in equity for that project. The remaining balance is being funded by local and foreign banks. And out of that, central bank has sown a seed to say we would provide about 75 billion naira, which is less than $300 million into that project. And we also said that it shouldn't just be about Dangote, but also that we are ready to welcome anybody that is ready to come and invest in Nigeria, both local and foreign. You need Naira loan, we will give you intervention fund to set up this project. We will provide you foreign exchange to import the plants and equipment that you need to produce these goods and services in Nigeria. We would, about 2 weeks ago, I wrote to the governors in the south and southeastern belt of Nigeria. I said, it has come to the time where we must stop the importation of crude palm oil into Nigeria. Crude palm oil per barrel is more expensive than crude oil that all of us are today running after. Okay? And we said we will re-establish the oil palm belt in the south and southeastern part of Nigeria. And Edo State has reacted positively, and some of the southern states are also reacting positively. With the support and intervention from the CBN, supported by the government, we would reverse the trend. That should be the direction. I thought it's important to say this so people can understand that the Central Bank of Nigeria, that the government, that the economy is doing well. Yes, a lot of work still needs to be done. There's still a couple of vulnerabilities and fragilities that we see in the Nigerian economy, but we are determined to resolve these issues. But we will continue to crave the support of everybody to please fly with us in these areas. Now, that a presidential candidate at a debate or at some discussion talked about the fact that he's going to allow unimpeded imports into the country, or that he will remove capital control, or he will free float the Nigerian currency. Let me say this. First of all, there is no capital control in Nigeria today, because you cannot find the hand of central bank trying to intervene in the market for demand and supply for foreign exchange in Nigeria today. But normally, central bank is an independent institution, are political. But it is also important that we should say that this matter came up at the Monetary Policy Committee meeting between yesterday and today. And it's not about criticizing, it's about reassessing our position to say, look, is there any merit in the need to begin to say that we should look at free floating the currency, or allow free import of goods that can be produced into Nigeria? The Monetary Policy Committee came to a conclusion that this was a wrong premise. We cannot be talking about allowing import of items that can be produced in the country today, exporting jobs from Nigeria to foreign countries, and we say we have the interest of Nigeria at heart. We don't agree with anybody. Anybody, we don't agree with that. It is a wrong premise to say you will allow import to just flood the country just because you want to please anybody. That is not our interest. And we have always said it, that we are apolitical. We will remain apolitical, but we do not want anybody to drag the central bank into issues that is within our remit. Otherwise, we will respond to it. On the issue of free float, the Monetary Policy reviewed it and said it will be the wrong and most wrong. It's as good as saying that we should go back to the eras of structural adjustment program again in Nigeria. The implication can better be imagined like you know. It will certainly lead to capital flight. It will lead to massive depreciation or devaluation of our currency, and ultimately lead to currency crisis in Nigeria. And I think we should all know that it is a route to perdition if we ever go in that direction. Now, impact of rising debt and how bad is it? I have not said that going for foreign debt is bad or that it is wrong. Before now, by around 2017, Nigeria's percentage or ratio of domestic and foreign debt was skewed to 80 domestic and 20 foreign, to the extent that even government was being accused of crowding out the private sector. And of course, the fiscal authorities felt there's a need to rebalance the debt position to 60-40. And I'm beginning, we also went last year and supported the raising of about $2.5 or $2.8 billion in the Eurobond market. We are just trying to observe that we are moving close to the ratio that has been set, and that there's a need for us to review the situation and then rejig and then think whether or not we should proceed. We have not come here to criticize the fact that that debt is being rebalanced from domestic to the foreign levels. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the president addressed. I watched that, and a couple of times the president graciously alluded to the good jobs that central bank has done, and even asked the journalists to find time to ask the central bank to provide some more data on these issues. I'm sure I've provided a lot of data in the issue of addressing matters that affect the Nigerian economy, and I think it's left for you to attest to this. These are data, and these are facts that are verifiable. The CBN has also deposited to reverse. Yes, it is true. Now, on the issue of the monies that were being paid by the Federal Minister of Finance, or DMO, to the oil petroleum marketers, there's an agreement, and I had held a meeting with both the banks as well as the oil marketers, and the agreement is that the banks would stop charging interest from July 2017 to date. Okay? That the banks themselves must play a part in what we call the haircut, taking part of some of the consequences Otherwise, I mean, it took a lot to get those monies to be paid, because you can imagine debts that have been outstanding for almost about 2 to 3 years owed to those petroleum marketers. So it's an agreement, and we have told the banks that they should please suspend interest from July 2017 to date on those loans, and that whatever promissory notes have been collected, they should collect them and credit the accounts of the petroleum marketers immediately. And we want to seize the opportunity. If any bank refuses to do so, the petroleum marketer is free, or through the association, the DAPMAN, please inform Central Bank and mention the name of the bank, and we will appeal to the bank to please carry out these instructions. Accounts issue confidence. Well, it is true. It's unfortunate that we've had released information about customer balance and the rest of them. But what I do know is, in the Banking Act, or the banking law or regulation, is that balances on a customer's account can only be released with a court order, and we'll expect that banks will comply with this. And please, I want to appeal to you, Matthias Okwe, please don't close your account in the bank. Neutral to set up National Microfinance Bank, is it not what is friendly, whatever? You see, the point is this, that the banks themselves, the truth that they've come under some attack, that they have not contributed much in acting as a channel through which funds can flow to the small and medium enterprises. And they also, on their own, magnanimously decided that they will set aside 5% of their profit to support agriculture and small-scale businesses in Nigeria. But they thought that, and we agreed with them, that because bank branches are not really in almost all the local governments of the country, to be able to reach out to these people that are living in a local community, that there is a need for us to set toward the banks, not government. Please note, it is not people's bank arrangement. It is the banks under the aegis of, collaborating with NIRSA as well as Nigerian Postal Agency, setting up this microfinance bank to reach out to all the 774 local governments in the country, and this will act as channels through which people can save money in those banks, in the local communities, and at the same time they can take loans from this microfinance bank. At the Central Bank, we are not happy ourselves about some of the sharp practices in some of the existing small microfinance institutions. A situation where people come and take loans and they turn themselves into money doublers is not something that we really cherish that much. And we thought that there's a need for us to have a microfinance institution that can channel the funds of these banks. As at today, December 2018, close to 90 billion naira is sitting in that account. On an annual basis, close to 30 billion is contributed by the banks, and this started about 3 years ago. 90 billion is sitting in CBN, and we need to be able to deploy these funds to support smallholder farmers in agriculture and also to support the SMEs. That is the initiative, and I think we should all give it the kind of support that is required. December 2018, update on setup of that National Microfinance Bank. I think I want to thank all of you, and I wish us a very fruitful 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. This has been marathon.
Yeah.
If it's a sign of how MPC is going to be this year, then we should prepare the seminar each time. The best for me to say Happy New Year to you, and to wish you well. We hope the election comes out well, and we meet again in March. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's comprehensive.
Thank you very much.